Welcome to the WanderLearn show. This is Francis Tapon. I'm here with Brad Graff and Sam Sliman. These are both guys that I went to business school with, but we're not going to talk about charts or financial stuff or cash flow or derivative markets. We're going to talk about our favorite subject, hiking. So these guys are not chumps, by the way. Brad and Sam have actually hiked quite a bit since business school. Tell us about some of the highlights of some of the things you've done together.
Well, we've done them once a year since about 2015. And I will say that was my first backpacking trip I think we did together. And kind of our rule of thumb is it's better to have, I don't know if it's better, but we have a lot of good gear. We didn't really know what we were doing, and we kind of figured that part out. But we did the maroon bells in Colorado, and what's in Patagonia? Sammy.
Torres del Paine.
Torres del Paine, you did that thing, and Lagaverger, Iceland, the famous hike. Anyway, we've kind of gotten around, done some stuff in New Zealand, so we kind of like to get out for about a week and do some pretty crazy things.
Didn't you guys weren't you thinking about going to the Wind River Range in Wyoming?
Oh yeah, we did that.
River,
yeah, that was fantastic.
See, I know your resume more than you guys.
Yeah, we did a section of the PCT one year, and last year we did Sweden.
Which section of the PCT?
Yeah, that was in Washington. We did it from the Oregon border just to south of Mount Rainier.
Oh, that's spectacular.
It was during the wildfires, and they kind of caught up with us. We had to bail out a day early.
Yeah, no, that's quite common nowadays, unfortunately. You're planning for your next big adventure, and this time is the Drakensberg Traverse in South Africa, and it kind of goes along the Lesotho border. Why did you pick this, and when are you planning to go?
We have a very sophisticated selection process that Brad sort of pioneered. It involved a 40-year-old book of the greatest hikes in the world.
And spreadsheets.
We are MBAs after all.
That's right. Can't leave Excel in your blood.
Oh yeah, it's on our list. We have like 40 hikes that we found. Started with this book. It's literally 40 years old, like some dude wrote. But yeah, we've added it, and we have it's by continent. So we have like these future cool hikes we want to do, and we keep looking at the Drakensberg, and it looks cool, but then we do some online reviews, and there's just enough little nuances that make it do we want to do this? Is it safe? Is it the right time of year? Is it, is there actually a route, or do we have to figure stuff out? And, are we going to get eaten? We're always worried about bears. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
There are worse things to worry about in Africa.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let me answer the number one question, the number one thing that does distinguish this route from other long distance trails that you might be considering. And unfortunately, it is indeed the safety issue. And not so much from wildlife or weather or that kind of stuff. It's mainly because I've heard of too many incidents of foreigners getting attacked on the Drakensberg Traverse. Nobody's, as far as I know, been killed. The worst thing that can happen to you is that they rob you of all your gear and that kind of stuff. But it has happened a bit too often for my taste. Now, let's put that in perspective. I don't know the statistics, but it's just to put it into perspective. Let's say if you're going to hike the Appalachian Trail, there's probably a 1 in 1,000 chance that you're going to get completely, stolen and everything taken away from you. On the Drakensberg Traverse, it's probably 1 in 100 chance. And so obviously 10 times more dangerous. But on the other hand, if you look at the odds, it's still highly unlikely that anything bad is going to happen to you. I went there with one guy. He was 63 or 65 or so at the time. And I was, I guess, 47 or something like that, 48. And we did meet a lot of herders, and you certainly will on the Drakensberg Traverse. These guys are Africans who have all their herds. In other words, usually cows as well as goats that are running around. That's their natural environment. That's where they are. And all the exchanges were utterly peaceful, super friendly. I never felt once threatened, no even hint of that. And we slept outside every night and in the wild. All that was good, no problems. But of course, we're just one data point. And my message to you is that fortunately there's a lot of other data points and they haven't had problems. So I think you guys won't have a problems, but something just to be aware of and to come up with a plan of like, what will you guys do in the case of somebody threatening you in one way or another?
Any suggestions?
Yeah. Good.
Let's say you're left down to your underwear or whatever it is. Somehow you have to have a way to like get back to civilization, which is easy. You just walk downhill, and then eventually be able to have either a spare credit card or ATM card somewhere else that you can get access to, or somebody can wire you money or something like that. That I'm just thinking that would be my main thing. Obviously not put up a fight. Don't bring a gun.
Have you ever had any situation like that, Francis, in all of your travels?
Yeah, I walked across Madagascar from north to south, and along the way, near the northern part of it, it was a 4-month trip, and in the first month or so, there was a situation where I was there with my wife and Sym. Sym was the same guy who went the Drakensberg Traverse with me. Rejoice, she wanted to wash herself up, and so I said, okay, here's a stream, and then I'll just get ahead of you a little bit. And so I went ahead, and Sym was even ahead of me, so we all went ahead, and it was the morning. And then she started yelling out my name after she was done. And I guess I was too far ahead because I didn't hear her. And that probably attracted the attention of these two men who were up in the bushes, like high up probably. And they probably heard her screaming from loud. And they came down and realized she's a foreigner. And they told her, take off your backpack. And then they started grabbing her shirt. And they said, and then she said, whoa, hold on. Let me just give you my jacket. And they left her down to her bra. They didn't sexually assault her in any way, or even try to. They did have a machete, and she luckily had just before, after she took her shower, she had moved money that she had in her backpack into her money belt. And so luckily she had like $2,000 in cash in her money belt. And luckily they didn't grab the money belt or notice that she had one. They didn't ask her to strip down, take off her pants. They were both young guys in their early 20s, as you might expect. And of course, I was stunned when I saw her, 20 minutes later, and all of a sudden she's walking with just a bra on and her pants and no backpack. And I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
So that was probably the worst incident. And same also in Madagascar, my buddy Sym, he went hiking alone, and he was on a beach one day and kind of went, and he was realizing he was a little bit off trail. So he decided to like come back in. And this guy came out of nowhere and just punched him in. Well, he didn't come out of nowhere. He kind of started talking to him a little bit, and then suddenly just punched him in the face and just said, give me your money. And Sym just decided to give him the money, and then the guy went away. Those are two incidents. Aside from that, I can't really think of any other incident where I had any kind of problem. Certainly not on the Drakensberg Traverse.
You are well traveled, and to only have those two incidents out of all the hiking that you've done that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, hiking, I think, is much more safe than than walking around Chicago at night in certain neighborhoods, for example.
Right. Right.
So
right.
I think so. In general, I'm not a big fear monger, and so. Anyway, that's the key distinguishing thing about the Drakensberg Traverse. I would just think a little bit differently. Have a safety plan available. Don't leave that's another thing. Don't walk, stand side by side. Two people are a lot harder to mug and to take over than just if you're kind of spread out. So that's another precaution I would take. Also, I would not camp early. I would wait until right at dusk and then camp. You might not even want to make a fire because all these things will attract attention. And somebody at night. So that's always been my practice. I don't make fires, but I realize it's a big deal for a lot of campers, and you guys probably like it, and I understand that. Anyway, these are just ways to like be stealthy. Just keep walking right until sunset, then you set up camp, and then just go to sleep. And then as opposed to setting up a camp when you still have 3 hours of daylight left, and people will see you, and then may decide to come back and pay you a visit. There was a time in Gabon. There was a shotgun went off right by my head. I was sleeping in the dead of the night, and I opened up my, I came out of my tent. I was like, "Excuse me, what is your problem?" And they're like, "Oh, we thought you were a poacher for elephant poacher." So I was like, "No, I'm not here to poach." Wow. Yeah, they want to scare me. They want to scare me and to because they thought I was an armed poacher, and so they just blasted a shotgun right next to me, and I was like, that woke me up.
That'll wake you up. Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, there was 3 guys there, obviously with a gun, and I just talked to them in French, and I just said, dude, I'm cool, no problem. Have a nice day. And they went away. So,
hey, Francis, how about as far as time of year, we're kind of penciling in September-ish, but we have some flexibility. When did you go, and what comments do you have on time of year?
it probably was in the fall, their fall. And that's when I would go. I'd go either the fall or the spring in general. Avoid the summer so it's not so hot. And the winter, you got these short nights and really cold temperatures. So I would go either fall or spring. What time did you say you were going?
September, so I guess that's their spring.
Yeah, exactly. You're totally fine with that. Yeah, that's a good time.
You have the GPX track, and I mean we're familiar with following that kind of thing, but we also read that it's not like there is a single Drakensberg trek that you just get on it. It's a nice not paved, but well-maintained trail. So maybe there's some route finding, which may be okay, maybe no. We're just not sure how to think about the actual trail conditions.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the rumors that you've read are true. There is a bit of route finding, but it's very easy if you have a GPS. But I would have a backup, a map maybe, to bring along with you that you can follow along. Again, from safety perspective, what if they steal your GPS? You can beg them and say, hey, can I keep my fucking map at least? And that way, and then always every day kind of, compare the GPS and make sure you know where you are on the map. So just so you know how to exit when you do, if you ever do need to go. And not just because you're going to get robbed, but also because, what if Sam breaks, his leg or something like that, and then you got to haul his little butt out. So those are things that you might want to do. But anyway, terrain wise, it's really easy. There's not a ton of vegetation. There's not a ton of trees and that block. So you have these huge line of sights usually. Yeah, you can see this big vista. So unless it's super foggy, or if you're hiking at night, unless you're doing that, in general, you're going to be able to see far away, which makes navigation really, really easy. Even if you don't have a GPS, even if I assume you guys know how to navigate without a GPS. Depends on the region, but you'll probably see somebody, at least one or two people every day. You'll bump into people. And the terrain itself, it's not like you're going to be going down craggy mountaintops and like descending down or ascending these steep stuff. It's all pretty smooth and rolling hills and that kind of stuff. So and you will find plenty of animal tracks and game tracks that you can kind of follow for a little bit, but don't get seduced by them because sometimes they could lead you astray. So always make sure to check your GPS every 15 minutes or so to just make sure you're not veering off course.
Something was called like the Grand Traverse, I think, which is, I don't know, that was 130 miles, 150 miles. It's like most of it or whatever. And it also includes a bunch of the peaks like along the way. So I think some people like doing, is that the thing you did?
Yeah, I did the Grand Traverse. Yeah, it's about 200 kilometers or so, 205, I think it is. Okay. And so about what you said in mileage. The other thing I might want to do if you have extra time is to do the tallest mountain of, I think if I remember correctly, it goes over the tallest mountain of South Africa, and nearby is the tallest mountain of Lesotho, which is even higher. So why don't you just GPS those two waypoints of the tallest mountain of Lesotho, so you can have bragging rights and say, hey, I went over those two tall mountains.
And was any of it technical?
No, nothing. It's just walking. Okay. If you've done, it's super easy. You guys, I've seen what you've done, Brad. You can easily handle the Drakensberg Traverse. And Sam, you may not be as cool as Brad, but
never. I aspire to be cooler than Brad, or even to match his coolness.
Exactly.
What about like must-see landmarks along the route? Is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
Put in the show notes, and I'll send it to you guys afterwards on an email. But there's this place where we camped low, and you kind of go up, and it's this high point. And you don't really need to go there because you could easily just walk by that high point. But I thought that was cool. It'll take you an extra hour or something like that to, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes to go up and 15 minutes to come down, something like that. But it's worth it because it's a beautiful high point. If the weather's good and the visibility is good, I would take it. But I'm blanking out on the name of that high point. And like I mentioned earlier, the two high points of South Africa and Lesotho would also be places that I wouldn't want to miss.
Right.
So it looks like we're still kind of in our early research phase, but it looks like, if you have the path that just kind of goes north-south, it appears that there's maybe 5 or 6 entry points, or kind of major places that, you know, people go in and out. So we're not going to do the whole thing just because 200 kilometers is a little longer than we have planned for this. So I'm assuming we just kind of take a section out of it and say, we're going to start here, exit here. I don't know, any thoughts?
Yeah, that's cool. I would start with Sentinel, and then it's a great starting point. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's easy to get to. I mean, relatively easy. And yeah, that's what I would do, and just go from there and then go as far as you can. How many days do you have, Brad?
We normally do 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
So, you know, we have something like that.
Yeah. It'd be pushing it to do all 20. You could do it in 7 days, the whole thing. Yeah, you could, but I don't know what kind of how much you want to kill yourselves.
Yeah, we generally can get somewhere between 12 and 18 miles a day. It's generally how far we go. 18 is a long day. We carry a lot of stuff. We like to do
Yeah.
a lot of
as
stuff.
far as we can tell, Francis, we're not really disciples of your
Minimalist. Francis is a minimalist.
Yeah.
We are maximalists.
We have some very nice chairs that we bring as an example.
Oh, by the way, speaking about chairs and just comfort, there was at least one place, if not maybe two, but certainly I found a hut. I remember one night we spent in it was a jumble of rocks. I mean, a small little hut made out of rocks. And we stayed there the night. You know, we get there and it's a place where shepherds go either when there's a storm going on, or they can cook a meal. They generally speaking don't sleep there. So I thought that maybe in the middle of the night, somebody would just come home and say, what the fuck are you doing in my house?
Right.
But it looked more like a shack, you know, that people use just to kind of like
a shelter.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was it. One time we did get lost on Drakensberg Traverse. We went and we literally were cliffed out. All of a sudden we just walked and walked. The storm was really strong. It was raining really hard and quite cold. And there was a lot of fog. So the visibility was terrible. And we just walked to the point where all of a sudden we just came below like a cliff just dropped. And I was like, uh-oh, we're not going the right way. And then but the wind was so ferocious, especially right there, that we just had to huddle by a rock for about 10 minutes. And we realized this wind is not going to stop. It's not going to abate at all. We have to just keep going. So we just sucked it up and just pushed through the wind for about an hour. And finally we camped because sunset was coming. Anyway, what other question do you guys have?
Just a logistics thing. From what I can tell, looks like the Johannesburg airport's about maybe 4-ish hours by car from Sentinel. I mean, I guess one option be we get the equivalent of an Uber or arrange transport to Sentinel. Then we do have a sat phone, so we'd be able to maybe coordinate a pickup, or any suggestions on how we make that stuff work?
You shouldn't have a problem, but I would have to research it. I don't know off the top of my head a solution on how to do it, but I'm 100% confident it can be done.
Okay.
Francis, how plentiful is water along the route?
Good question. It's pretty plentiful. I mean, I don't remember ever struggling to find water or, you know, being short on water. So yeah, I think you'll be fine. And you're going to be going in the spring. So, you know, it'll be nice time to go, and you get a lot of runoff and snow melt, or if there is any snow left. Okay. So you should be fine. Water wise, it's definitely not a desert, but you're on a high point. And so it's not like there's a ton of water sources, but realize that there's also a lot of cows there. And so you definitely want to purify the water.
Right. What about Starbucks? Are there any Starbucks?
Yes, there's plenty of them, about every 10 miles.
Nice. There's one thing we don't have to carry, Brad.
That's right. Leave your coffee behind, Brad.
Coffee grounds. Excellent.
Good.
Helpful for me to hear from someone who's actually done it before.
When we want to hike in the United States as U.S. citizens, it's kind of, we feel more comfortable. It's our country. It's always a little bit more exotic when you go to another country. Another great trek that you might want to add to your list of 40 things to do, Brad, is to add the High Atlas Mountains of Morocco. It's also
it's on there.
Huh?
Yeah.
On the list.
It's on.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So I did that. I did the whole thing. It's about 2 weeks or so to go from where the high Atlas starts and goes all the way to the sea. And it's another fabulous route. I didn't have any problems. In fact, I ran into some local people along the way who live in the mountains, and the road is pretty much inaccessible to get there. And they invited me to their home. They fed me. It was so nice. It's just to meet these people who are living full time out in the middle, up in the mountains. It's remarkable. So definitely another long distance trail. The Madagascar was interesting. It was a long distance trail. And yeah, Drakensberg. Drakensberg is a great choice. So I'm totally encouraging you to go. Don't worry about the safety stuff. Keep somewhat alert, but don't let it overwhelm. Don't let it detract away from the enjoyment.
We'll set up another one of these things for the Atlas Mountains in a year or two.
Excellent. I love it. All right, cool, guys.